Welcome to Current Affairs on JTV. Today we're discussing whether the Obama administration has been good for Israel. And joining me for this are Eylon Levy, who is a broadcast journalist at IBA Television, and Hannah Weisfeld, the director of Yachad. Okay, Eylon, has the Obama administration been good for Israel or bad for Israel?
I'm afraid that despite the very moving words by President Obama at the funeral of Shimon Peres, the Obama presidency has been generally very unsupportive for Israel, from the surprise speech in 2009 in Cairo and all the way to the administration scrubbing the word Israel off the press release regarding Peres' funeral. The tectonic plates are shifting underneath our feet here in Israel. And they're shifting because the Obama administration has launched a very ambitious regional policy whose aim is to turn Iran into a regional power. And you don't have to take my words for that. Listen to the interview that President Obama gave with Thomas Friedman last July, in which he said that Iran should be and will be a regional power. He also said Iran will be a very successful regional power. And I just want to stress how extraordinary this is, that a country that is supposed to be our greatest ally in the world wants our greatest regional rival, which on a daily basis threatens Israel with extermination, to be a regional power and to exercise a more aggressive, muscular role in the region. So I think it's very important to evaluate President Obama's foreign policy in those terms, in terms of supporting the expansion of Iran in our region.
Hannah, Eylon has presented a negative view. Is that something you agree with?
Well, I think it sort of really depends on how you quantify what is good and what is bad for Israel. I think that we've seen from the Obama administration unwavering support for Israel. There's clearly dislike between the two leaders, between Netanyahu and between Obama, and that's been very apparent the whole way through both of their administrations. But in terms of the United Nations, the United States remaining a sort of staunch ally, I find it very difficult to look at it through the lens solely of Iran. I mean, there's many, many more factors involved in the relationship between America and Iran. There's many more factors involved in the relationship between America and Israel, not just Iran. And I would say the continual renewal and support of military aid between Israel and America, and the announcement earlier this week that America had pledged its biggest military aid package to Israel ever, and the fact that I think that America has taken very seriously Israel's security concerns vis-a-vis Iran. It might have arrived at a different conclusion, but I don't think for one moment Obama has chosen to renege on his responsibility towards Israel. And you saw a real upsurge of support in the Israeli diplomatic and security community for the Iran deal and for America's actions, and a real cry from the security establishment to Bibi saying, do not jeopardize and undermine this deal in Congress. This is better. It's not ideal, but it's better than anything we've got so far.
Eylon, Hannah's got a point, doesn't she? This administration's been very supportive of Israel from a military perspective, military aid.
I'm very glad that Hannah's brought up the question of military aid. The military package that America signed with Israel is certainly generous. To term it the largest in history is a mistake if you look at real-term figures, and certainly if you consider that the Prime Minister was forced to sign a letter saying that if Congress were to pledge Israel any further support, he would return the check to the State Department. In another interview with Thomas Friedman, Obama said that he was committed to helping Israel retain its qualitative military edge, but we've seen here that he's forcing the Prime Minister to return any future aid that Congress might want to give it. And while certainly the military aid package was generous, one wonders whether it's enough to deal with a resurgent Iran in the region, which is receiving tons and tons of money now from the loosening of sanctions. And I'd like to ask Hannah specifically how she regards a statement that Iran should be a regional power in the Middle East, constitutes unwavering support for Israel, rather than a dramatic revolutionary change in the very ground rules of the American-Israeli relationship.
Well, I would actually ask you a question, which is what you feel America has got to achieve by, what I think the picture you're painting is one where it demotes Israel and promotes Iran, and whether America also has its own security considerations to bear in its relationship with Iran. And I find it a highly unlikely scenario that America would jeopardize its security relationship with Israel and its own security relationship with the promotion of Iran at the expense of Israel, unless it felt that there was a strategic security benefit for both itself and Israel.
I'll gladly explain. The United States now understands that perhaps the peak of its power is over, and President Obama is seeking to disengage from the Middle East in order to pivot towards China, which he regards as being a priority for the United States in an era in which its power is receding. As a result, it's looking for a way to disengage. We saw it leaving Iraq. Obama had his own mission accomplished moment, and we see that Iraq has now collapsed. A very non-muscular, light intervention in Syria. And as part of that, the United States is asking how it can disengage safely. And Obama's answer, and he's been perfectly honest about this, is that he regards Iran as a potential ally for the United States, and that it sees that engaging Iran will nudge it towards a more responsible role so that it, and again, I quote President Obama verbatim, should be and will be a regional power. And I think whatever niceties President Obama has extended in Paris's eulogy or aid for the Carmel forest fire or military aid, nothing really compensates for the fact that our greatest regional ally is helping our greatest regional foe attain hegemony in the region.
Hannah, just one final point on this. Judging on what Eylon says, it's really the Iran question that may divide you the most on this. Do you accept there may be a difference between what the Americans want and what the Israelis want from a strategic position in the Middle East?
Yeah, I mean, there clearly is a difference, 100%, but I think the question really here is the difference one that is based on a decision to disengage and to distance America to distance itself from its ally Israel, or is that a strategic difference which still has that alliance at the heart of decision making? And I would argue that yes, there are differences. It's very clear, forgetting it, sort of broader foreign policy. It's very clear vis-a-vis Israel's actions in its own backyard that there is an enormous strategic difference between how America views the actions of Israel and how Israel views the actions of Israel. But I think that what you've seen time and time again is a huge amount of criticism towards Netanyahu, and yet a fundamental sort of desire to keep that relationship close, and often at the frustration of Europe, of Israel's European allies who want to see America be more robust in its dealings with Israel, and they haven't had that from the Obama administration in any way, shape or form, really. So I think that you can have strategic differences. I'm not sure that those strategic differences mean that there is a break or a change in the sort of the strategic allied relationship that the two countries have.
Okay, guys, I'm afraid that's all we've got time for. We'll have to leave it at that cliffhanger. Thank you, Eylon. Thank you, Hannah, for joining us. And thank you as well watching this. We'll see you again soon for another episode of Current Affairs on JTV.